and welcome back to Bookish Theories. In today's video, we'd like to talk about J-Hope's More, focusing on a little breakdown and analysis of the lyrics and the music video to see what they can tell us about the upcoming Jack in the Box. More is a pre-release track that expresses J-Hope's raw feelings and emotions as he expresses his thoughts from inside the box. According to the press release, the song conveys the bold ambition and pure passion of an artist that wants to show different aspects of himself to the world. If in the past we met J-Hope's brighter and more hopeful persona, this time around the goal is quite literally to show us more, that is, a side of himself that we never saw before. As we see in a second, this new side is obviously portrayed by the Jack in the Box, which is a darker alter ego that is coming out from its hiding and showing himself for the very first time. Fittingly enough, the very first appearance of this character can actually be found on the cover of Blue Side, where Jack was coming out of a container that was labeled as Pandora's Box. In the original myth, after Pandora accidentally released all evils in the world, Hope was the only thing that stayed in the box. Now, however, things are changing because Hope is coming out to express his passion and determination to always better himself. As the press release explained, the Jack in the Box imagery represents J-Hope's aspiration to break the mold and grow further. In that regard, More is the perfect introduction to this concept because even if technically Jack is not out of the box just yet, we do take a look into the world hidden inside of it. At the beginning, for instance, the video opens with a man delivering a box to Obi's door. The moment he opens it, Jack is freed from his box, and we're introduced to the universe that only exists within. As we see later on with the X-ray, for instance, the intention is to go beyond the surface and expose the grittier aspects of his artistry. Since the song is meant to portray Hope's ambition to improve as an artist, his passion for music, as well as his grit to have it all, More provides a closer look to the raw and unfiltered reality that remained hidden up to this point. You see, in many respects, what we see in the video is like a Hope world, but of a different kind in comparison to what we saw back in Daydream. Even if back then Hosok was already inside of some sort of box, that song focused on the dreamier and more positive aspects of his personality. In that concept, he was literally daydreaming of all the things that he wanted to do in his life, but by the end he woke himself up in a way that allowed him to turn his initial ambition into a reality. This is an awakening that will later take place in Outro Ego, which in turn is a song that is also referenced in the scene where we see Jack on the hospital bed. That is a very important song in his musical growth because if we take a look at the lyrics, it kind of represented him finally coming to terms with the struggles of his past. Ego was about him accepting that as painful as it was, his hardship were a necessary step for him to grow into the artist that he is today, and in More we finally see him embracing this shadow but proudly admitting that he crashes and falls to make his art. Now, even if at first glance these lines might seem a bit concerning, the fact that he's admitting that this side of the creative process exists is actually a very realistic way to portray it. Even if J-Hope is a very bright individual, nobody can be bright all the time, and even if the highlight of his artistry is his ability to always learn and grow, learning and growing is not always an easy process. It takes effort, passion, and the ambition to succeed, so if in Ego he understood that reaching a dream involves both the good and the bad, in More we're seeing this concept put into practice. To improve at the pace J-Hope wants, daydreaming is not enough. In the lyrics, he tells us that he still wants stadiums full of fans, he wants to write somebody's next favorite songs, he wants the trophies, the Grammy, the fame, he wants everything and then some more. In order to get all of that, you have to stay thirsty, you have to stay passionate about your craft, and at times even unsatisfied. In this context, greed and ambition are actually a positive motivation that makes him break the mold, so even if the box that we see is dark, raw, and bare, the Jack that embodies all these feelings is a necessary force that makes him feel alive. Now, one thing that I actually wanted to show you here is the huge growth that J-Hope went through in the past few years. As it turns out, this is not the first time that Hosok has talked about ambition and greed, but the way he did it then is dramatically different in comparison to the way he does it now. Back in Boy Meets Evil, for instance, the song described his first confrontation with his darker side in a moment of life when he was struggling with his dream. As the light of his future was getting dim, the lyrics tell us that he sharpened the knife of ambition, but this knife still got dull because of his unbearable greed. In a moment of hardship where success was still not guaranteed, Hosok perceived his ambition as a venom and his greed as a horn calling upon hell. While evil was overpowering him, he pushed himself to breathe because greed and ambition were literally suffocating him. Now instead it's the complete opposite because his drive for work makes him breathe. As he inhales and exhales, jhope is not suffocating anymore. He found in his heart a reason to live, the joy of his life, and he feels alive because he embraced the Jack as a part of who he is. You see, since throughout history the Jack in the Box was initially called the devil in the box, we can even go as far as to say that the Jack can be seen as the embodiment of his darker side or shadow. Bear in mind, in the song Hosok mentions Salvador Dali, and Dali was a surrealist artist that used his art to allow his unconscious to literally express itself. Like in Interlude Shadow, the shadow took the mic and told his side of the story. Jack is doing the same in our journey inside of his box, and this is actually a great way to give a sense of continuity between chapter 1 and chapter 2. If back in Boy Meets Evil, this dark side ended up overpowering him, however, now Hope is in full control, because by the end he closes the box like nothing ever happened. This is a post-ego era, so even if Jack is showing himself, it's still a side that J-Hope is able to control. He's choosing to let Jack out of the box. He's opening the lid, and when he feels like it, he closes it back up, meaning that after self-learning for 11 years, he learned to harness that drive in order to use it in a productive way. To see what more J-Hope has in store for us, we'll have to wait and see, but in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye bye!